going on, guys? Let me know if you can hear me clearly before we get rolling. Just give me some messages in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me clearly. Audio is good. What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 17 of PBH Live. Things are moving along quite swimmingly. I want to thank everybody for joining us already tonight. We got a couple guys already saying hello in the chat room, saying you can hear me clearly. That's awesome. Shout out to Wild Horse Garage for being the first in the chat. He wins the chicken dinner tonight. Jose Delgado, Vector 50. I think Alex just answered your question, by the way. Carlos Arroyo, what's going on, man? Checking in from Puerto Rico. A fine young gentleman, potentially, called Pussy Pounder. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining. Jose Delgado, Clay Terry, Alfredo Diaz, hearing me loud and clear. Good. Alex Flores is in the house, which is a good friend of mine. He gave me my latest YDBT t-shirt over the weekend. Thank you very much for wearing that tonight on the show. Let's see here. Josh Miller, Jordan Dunning. Looks like everybody's here. The gang's all here. Parker's here. Yeah, you're late, bro. You got your ass kicked to work? I'm going to tell you about my day here in a second. It's all good things. But it was definitely... Things have been busy around here, especially for me, because we got a lot of stuff going on the front. Like, latest stuff. So we're going to be covering a lot of those things, but before we do, we'll do a proper introduction. My name is Frank Perdomo. I work here at Power by the Hour Performance. We are in West Palm Beach, Florida, located right off the runway at Palm Beach International Airport. We are Coyote swap specialists, blooming into Godzilla swap specialists, potentially, hopefully, maybe, somehow. If you have any questions about Coyote swaps, 6R80s, 10R80s, Godzilla, and then even some general stuff, the chat is live. You can post up in there. If you definitely have to have your question answered, and I'm not getting to it in the regular chat, there is a super chat available where you can donate some money to the channel, and then it sticks up there, and I have to answer it, basically, because it doesn't go away. It doesn't get lost in the fray there. What else can we say? If you have any questions that we don't get to here on the show, or you want to ask more in-depth questions, you can email us info@pbhperformance.com. You can call us 561-737-2331. We got 3 sales guys full-time on the phones answering all those calls. I handle a lot of the emails along with Travis and the rest of the guys. We have a website, pbhperformance.com, that you can visit and see a lot of our technical information on there, instructions, our products, everything. So that all being said, if for any reason you would like to buy a hat, we do have hats available. They are in production right now. They're the exact same hats, but with black and gray finishes. They are $25 shipped. If you want to get one of those, you just got to email me directly. The email is down at the bottom of the screen. It's frank@pbhperformance.com. Email me there. There's 1 or 2 emails I got to get to. Guys have already reached out. We're going to get to those guys very soon as we get hats in. So we get PayPal links out so they can pay for them and get their hats on the way. Thank you for everyone who has bought them so far. It definitely helps the channel grow. Alrighty. So, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Ford world right now. Ford is taking some big swings. They're coming out of the box strong right now, and I'm not sure, I haven't been paying enough attention to what's going on in the automotive landscape. A lot of companies have recently. I mean, Corvette came out with the rear engine, all that fun stuff, the DCT and the GT500, the GT500 in general. all big swings there too. But here we are. We get the Bronco. Before we get the Bronco, we get the Godzilla crate motor from Ford Racing, which I will announce officially. We have one here. Let's talk about it in a little bit. We have a Godzilla engine here for development, and we're going to be working on getting some information out about that. But also, Ford, right after that, which maybe probably wasn't timed on purpose or whatnot, releases the Bronco to its big unveiling, and it seems to be, you know, the ruling the roost right now as far as social media and doing very well. While Ford has everyone's attention, they finally drop the Mach E 1400 video, which we saw some supposed spy footage from them testing it on that skid pad and doing some testing and so forth. And now all of a sudden the car's completely done. It's got winglets and big wing in the rear. It's got a full cage. It's got nice I mean, it's a really nice vehicle. And then they let you hear it. They kind of show it to you in that video, that unveiling video, next to all these other Ford Performance vehicles. So the GT350R, you get to see the NASCAR by Joey Logano. Ken Block is in there with a ridiculous Mustang of his, all-wheel drive one with twin turbos. It's crazy. Haley Deegan's in there, a couple drift guys, and Von Gitten's driving the Mach E 1400, which apparently has 1400 horsepower and it's full electric and so forth. Now, obviously, there's a lot of discussion as far as how full electric vehicles make you feel. Not everyone's really on board with them. Is it absolutely crazy technology that's going on there? Yes. It's innovation to the max, but electric cars have been around for over 100 years. I think some of the first vehicles that Mercedes-Benz ever made were battery-powered carriages. So we're not really all new here. And obviously we all know Tesla vehicles. They're amazing. They have their full lineup, and they're quick, they're fast. The P100Ds are really, really fast. But these cars are kind of, as they're entering the mainstream in the performance world, they're still in their infancy, and they're not really allowed to compete in a lot of places either. So, for example, if you had an electric Tesla and you went out to one of the Optima challenges, I don't think they had a class for it. I think it's actually SCCA has no classes for them. Last time I checked, the rules from last year. Maybe they have them now. And I think Optima has an electric group now. You obviously have Formula E, which is Formula One's version of their electric vehicles, which kind of show the chink in the armor with electric, which is halfway through the race, instead of doing a pit stop for fuel or tires, they literally have to switch cars because the other one's sitting there charged up, ready to go. The battery can't last the entire time. But I imagine with time and effort and development and so forth, that's going to be something that gets overcome, because electric, even though it's really, really fast, it seems to lag at high speed. It tails off. Its strong suit is right off the line. It's instant power. It is just ready to go. And that's why RC cars are so fast from a get. So the performance is undisputable. It's there. I mean, for drag racing, I think it's going to be something that really changes the landscape. Drifting, yeah, no problem. Road racing, you're probably not going to see much of that. I mean, hybrids maybe, but the longevity and endurance racing, that aspect, that's not really the strong suit of electric, unless you're got them on tracks, literally like slot cars, getting juiced the whole time. So this is, I mean, it's awesome. Looking at the vehicle, if I looked at it and you said, hey, I don't know if it's electric or if it's got a twin turbo V6 or a Coyote motor or Godzilla motor in it, I like the way the car looks in its full racing spec. Let's take a peek at it here together. Let's get it to the right picture. All right. Okay, just cycling through all these. There we go. Okay, we're getting close. There we go. So here is the Mach E 1400. It's a good looking ride. I mean, I know it's kind of awkward to see a Mustang logo on the front of what's essentially a crossover, but it looks the part. It kind of reminds me of the British touring cars, but bigger. You know, for a long time, the only road racing I could see on my DirecTV package or whatnot was some of the British touring car stuff, which is all four door. I love the Australian V8 series, and those were all four-door vehicles. So you got to love the four-door because it had the bad stigma, right? It's not a performance car. It's not two-door. Why don't they just use Mustangs? Now they're getting around to doing that, but I'm okay with what I'm seeing here. Now, obviously, I don't know if this is the next Mustang all the way, but if it was, I mean, it's not killing me. You know, if it looked like this, wide-bodied and all this crazy stuff, obviously it's not going to be a production vehicle, but they really made it look at home as a performance vehicle. We've seen the Mach E, it's got really swooping lines and so forth, but when they added all the performance mods to it, it really gave it a lot of attitude. They also put some crazy straight cut gears in it because it sounds like a cat being thrown at 1,000 miles an hour. Just, and Formula E did the same exact thing. They changed their gearboxes so that people can hear the cars going around the track and have that sensation of it being a high-pitched Formula One motor. I mean, they really did a good job making you feel like this is a performance vehicle. If this is the message that they are portraying now, they are trying to cement into us that the Mustang moniker still means performance. It's not just going to go away and become a four-door electric, vehicle potentially. They're still invested in making it a performance vehicle for the masses. And Mustang has always been that. I don't know if this is going to be the future of the Mustang, but it did become that. I guess. I'm not dying looking at it. I mean, you guys can tell me if you don't. I mean, if this is a real no, hell no, I don't want to see these things on the road. They're hideous and so forth. I kind of always take that with a grain of salt whenever Ford changes something, because for a while there, the people were saying that about the 15, 17 Mustangs, and they're everywhere, and they've grown on a lot of people. Then the 18s and 19s came out that it really didn't change a whole lot, but they were complainers about that. There was people complaining about the 11 to 14 cars, saying, I don't like it. The 05 to 2010, well, 05 to 9 cars were the first ones from the new edge to the new chassis, and when they came out, I feel like it was a more unanimous yes. Everyone loved it, the retro look to it. And then as they started making the small changes, like they always do, because things get stagnant and they had to keep changing things, it only lasts 2 or 3 years, 4 years, and they got to go to something new. That's what we demand as consumers. There seems to be more of an uproar about how they look and so forth. And they at the end of the day, you always get used to them, and they always look good because you put a set of wheels on it, you lower it, all that other fun stuff, and the car comes to life. And I think this Mach E, maybe not everyone's going to be driving around looking like this, but you can see that you can do cool stuff to it, and it's going to haul ass. A majority of our lives, our performance lives in our cars, our Coyote swap vehicles, our trucks and cars is light to light. Even in autocross, I mean, the time period is so short, this could do it. So a lot of the motorsports that we all enjoy, these electric vehicles are a good fit for them. You don't have to be a race team to go out and enjoy it. And it's good for the environment. I mean, you don't have to buy fuel. You got to worry about tires. You got to worry about braking stuff, sure, yeah. And you got to worry about the payment because these things aren't going to be cheap. So all things that we've encountered and gone over before. I mean, check out the interior of this thing. I was taking a peek at this earlier, and they call the mode that it's in is unbridled. You can see the voltage readouts on the dash there, which obviously this is all race stuff. Maybe that centerpiece is more along the lines of the OEM dashes. See a lot of the controllers in the center console. Very futuristic. It's a race car, though. I mean, what they have here is probably pretty close to an FIA homologated cage, as you see in like FR500 race cars. So this thing ends up in some sort of touring championship or electric championship, they're going to be ready to go on that front. I mean, it's just neat. What I was surprised to see, I mean, oh, look at this. I mean, this is ridiculous. I use this photo for the thumbnail, as you can see at the beginning of the video. I mean, he's just destroying the tire. In the video, it's just massacre on the tires, which, yeah, you could do that with 800 horsepower, but here we are. We got all-wheel drive. I think it's got, I don't know if it's 2 or 4 motor or whatnot. I haven't read that far into it, but it's nasty, and it's quick and it's strong. I mean, look at this cage. Look at this tub as they built it. This is the body in white here. I mean, they're definitely not, there's no stops here. It's got front and rear seats and everything. So you can kind of see here some of the electrical stuff in the front, the width, the control arms that they made for it to get this whole thing to work and do what it's doing. Radiators. Now, I was watching a video, one of the Jay Leno videos, where he goes out riding, and he went on an electric startup company called, I think it's called Canoe, and they showed one of their electric motors and gearboxes together, and there's oil in there. So there must be some water cooling, oil cooling going on here, most likely water. They're water cooling something, because you can see the expansion tanks hooked up to each one, which I don't know if that's going to be part of your factory system. I bet it's just for performance and so forth, just like we water cool gaming computers to keep hard drives cool and so forth. And this I thought was an interesting picture. Here they're showing the Mach E 1400 destroying 4 more tires next to what seems to be the Mach E GT. So, interesting comparison. You can see them side by side. Obviously, you know which one you kind of want. I would say the one on the left, that's unbelievable. And the one on the right is no slouch either. That's not a bad-looking vehicle. It's just, still, it is a little awkward to see that Mustang logo on something with 4 doors. But, you know, if it was a Falcon, and if they came out and said, hey, this is the Falcon E, is that going to fall more into, is it going to be less abrasive than being a Mustang? Falcon doesn't have a foothold in America anymore. We don't have a performance 4-door. The Taurus was never that. The Ford 500. I mean, I think they went with what works. Look at the back cage on this thing. This is really nice. I mean, it's nice work, race car work. And you can see the scoop coming out of the ceiling. There's a scoop on top, and it is functional. So it's going back. They got a lot of cooling going on here to make sure this thing doesn't melt. So overall, I think we got a really cool vehicle in the Ford stable. I mean, again, you guys can tell me and your opinions. I'll try to read through some of the stuff that's going on here. We'll go to a paid question real quick. Alfredo Diaz says, channel support, and also, is it me or a lot of performance parts on back order? I'm trying to buy comp cams and no one has any for a Gen 1 right now. Well, here's the thing. COVID is affecting a lot of stuff. It has affected a lot of stuff. Manufacturing, employees, different parts of the world, everyone's been affected. So at the beginning of the COVID shutdown, companies still had inventory, warehouses still had parts, but they may have been able to restock once. They haven't been able to restock maybe the second time, and manufacturing has slowed down. I've seen BBK, for example, long tube headers, mid pipes, no release date yet. They have, and I'm pretty sure on Summit they took it down altogether. They don't want to even list it anymore. So comp cams, there's probably a better chance that it's just a matter of making them if you order them, if they have cores. When we were selling a lot more comp cam components in our performance days, we would order a set of cams directly from them. It depended on cores, and they would spin them up and basically machine them for us and then ship them out. If they had to do that, it was a couple weeks. If there's no cores, cam cores, because they don't make the core, they got to buy it and then machine it down to the lope and so forth. That is a different animal. For example, valve springs. All the engine builders I've ever spoken to, valve springs are something that they gravitate to different manufacturers depending on who has the best wire. And that is something that goes up for bid. So if there's 3 companies that make valve springs and they really only buy material from one foundry, that wire, if you don't pay the most for it, you don't get the best sample of it, and then the other guys have to fall in line. So the price of valve springs kind of fluctuates up and down depending on the price of metal and so forth. That wire, that core material is important, and they got to buy it. They got to basically, it's auctioned off, and then depends on when you need it and how much you're going to buy. So parts. You know, we've been lucky enough since we manufacture everything here. On our components, we've been a little slow at sometimes, but we are manufacturing stuff. We're getting stuff out the door. Ford Racing control packs, we get a lot of questions about that. We've been selling a lot of them lately. I don't think you're going to see them in stock anywhere because they're coming in for already paid orders and going right out the door. Same with Ford Racing. They're probably not going to have a backlog of these things sitting around for a long time. So if you need a component like that, place the order. Just place it because you don't know if it's going to come in 5 days, 10 days, 2 months, 6 months. But the only way you're going to get it potentially is to get in line. If push comes to shove and you got to buy a used one, or hey, I found one on eBay, the guy wants $400 more for it, make that call at that point. You can always cancel the stuff. You know, if you buy it from us and we haven't received it yet, even if we did receive it, we're going to find another home for it. So don't be afraid to order your parts and then wait for them. I mean, right now, that's just kind of the lay of the performance land, I would say. Jose Delgado, Falcon. Yes, buddy. Yes, that'd be kind of cool. Falcon GTE or FPVE. I mean, we don't use FPV here in the United States, but yeah, I agree. And thank you for the support, man. Really appreciate it. So Mach E 1400. Let's read through some of these comments because it's going off pretty good here. Let's see here. Robert Hilversum. Robert Hilversum. I would love to install a Coyote in a 2017 Raptor. I think a lot of guys with Raptors would prefer to have a V8. A truck like that, I mean, Coyote makes sense. Supercharged Coyote makes sense. Does a Godzilla make sense? Maybe. But, yeah, the 3.5 EcoBoost is no slouch. You got a good solid engine there. But at the end of the day, you may miss that growl. And even though they pipe it into your speaker system, which is kind of crazy, it doesn't have that growl. And unless you like that turbo whoosh and high-pitched exhaust, you're always going to be missing it if you're listening for it. So, yeah. Frank, do you think you will produce your own oil pump and crank gears? Probably not. That's something that we would probably leave for the people who are already making them now. TSS, Liver Noise. Those brands have always done a great job doing that stuff, and we don't see where we can really step in and improve what they're doing. Plus, it's going to take us away from what we're doing Coyote swaps and stuff like that. So, probably not. Probably not a venture we're going to jump into. Let's see here. Mike Vasquez, hey man, what's going on? Doing my second cam phaser repair on the 3.5. Whoa, yeah, I didn't know they had that much of an issue with those 3.5s, Robert. Cam phaser issues are usually designated to the 3 valves and oil pressure stuff and but the 3.5s, I haven't heard that about them, but we also don't come into contact with a bunch, and we don't do a lot of repair work on them and so forth, but not too, it is a little surprising here they have that many issues. Root Beer, what's going on, brother? Thank you for joining again tonight. Let's see here. He says, I'd road course the shit out of that thing. Yeah, I would too. Long straightaways might be a little bit of a problem, but if you can get off the turn, yeah, somebody might outrun you towards the end, but you can always try to block them at the entrance. Jose Delgado says, that thing looks like a Focus on Viagra. I agree. That little blue pill. Blue Oval 91, any thoughts on Adam LZ Barra swapped 350 with PBH 6R80? I'm all for cool stuff. I don't have a whole lot of experience or opinion on the Barra. I've heard a lot of great things about it. Let's see what happens. The only thing that's hokey about that, or maybe let's revert a little bit. Not hokey, but a little worrisome about that is the controlling of the 6R80, because all these guys that are doing their 2JZs and now Barra, their old Fords and stuff with a 6R80 behind it, they are using a US shift controller, and as we've stated before, potentially there could be issues there. It could fall short of what is expected of the transmission because it's not a factory computer where we've proven and we know what it can do, what it can and cannot do. That US shift controller, they continue to work on it, and I know there's people out there that have had a lot of success with it. There's people out there that have had problems with it and had to pull them out. When you're dealing with a Barra or an old small block Ford, a 2JZ, you don't have an option to go to a stock computer. Hopefully Motec comes out with theirs, and then you can spend 8-10 grand and get a good controller for it potentially. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to have problems. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, because the videos I've seen of the guy with the 2JZ, which I guess is similar to the Barra, he's manually shifting that thing. He's not putting it in drive, and drive is going to be the fastest way to get down the track. Manually shifting it through select shift isn't going to be the quickest route. So if you're doing that, it's maybe because you don't want to hurt the transmission because the tune is problematic, or maybe it's not shifting right. So look out. Doug Fidelki, he sends some channel support. Thank you, brother. Just soaking up knowledge while waiting for parts for the build. He is the one waiting on the mid pipe that literally they told me September maybe. Doug, I believe your cold air kit, if it hasn't left yet, is leaving tomorrow. We got enough parts in to make your kit, and it's going to you. So look out for that notification in your email as well. Let's see here. Insane Mustang says, I'm interested in seeing the Mach E GT go up against the likes of Trackhawks and Urus and other high-performance SUVs. Yeah, I mean, is that car really going to be considered an SUV? Is there another segment that these things are going to go into? Because Ford has already said they're not making cars. The Mustang is going to be the only car. But they've literally shown us a Mustang that is a four-door vehicle. So is the Mustang going to be this size in the future? We have another chassis update coming up soon. I don't know if it happens then. Is the new Explorer chassis more along the lines where we're going to get as a Mustang? It's going to be bigger, give us more room. Will it fit more segments? Are there going to be more asses for those seats in the dealership showrooms buying those vehicles because they have more room and they can continue owning a Mustang and bring their kids and go on vacation and haul ass and have fun? I mean, seemingly the OEMs, the automotive in general, has really gravitated to performance four-door vehicles that are on the plus side, in my opinion. But even our two-door vehicles are on the plus side. They haven't made the Mustang smaller. It continues to get bigger. So are we looking at what the future of the Mustang is? Now, we had this touchy ground before. Remember, the Ford Mustang was going to basically be transitioned over to the Ford Probe. And I think Ford got like 1,000 bomb threats on the building because they changed direction. They went, John Coletti put in the effort. He made the Cobra R and showed them that they can update the car without spending a bunch of money. They reskinned it and made it a 94 Mustang. And then they went and got the mod motors and started 96. And look at where we're at now. So I don't know. Is that Mach E a crystal ball in the future? Root Beer, buying a Mach 1 next year and want to run E85 with a surge tank. Would you stay single pump or go dual? People hating on the Mach 1, but I think it's going to be 95% of a GT350 without the voodoo grenade. E85 with a surge tank, I don't think you need to go that far. If you're trying to run E85, if it's not boosted, I think you're probably going to have enough fuel system to just potentially put a booster pump on it, put E85 in it. You may not even have to upgrade the injectors. So a surge tank, where that's going to help you is if you have slosh issues, which I have not seen that the stock tanks personally have issues with slosh, whether it's in the 11 to 14 cars, 05 to 09 cars, 15 and up cars. I had one gentleman come to us once with a twin turbo 16 Mustang, and they had put a fuel cell in the trunk because he was going to track it. And I asked, well, what's the reasoning for the fuel cell? For safety? He said, no, it's because I was told that the fuel tank has too much slosh. Now, they're saddlebag tanks, so slosh, I don't see how that's happening. There's a fuel basket and everything. I think he just got upgraded to something he didn't need, because the fuel cell they put in the trunk is literally a plastic fuel cell with an external pump. And to me, that's no guarantee that that's going to never give you issues as far as fuel slosh. So I don't see the reason to have the surge tank. if it's boosted, big time boosted, and you don't want to mess with the stock pump, then a surge tank with its own fuel pump potentially could be helpful. But I don't know. I may have missed something on the Mach 1, what they're releasing there, but I think it's just NA. And if it's NA, most likely you have enough pump, or you can upgrade to a big enough pump in the tank to run E85, where you don't have to spend the money on a surge tank unless you have a particular reason you want a surge tank and you used in the past. I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt anything to do it. But as far as going single pump or dual, if it's going to be NA and you can shove, I think Deechworks has like a 400 liter per hour pump that can handle the job. I don't think you need to go dual. Dual would be if you're going to put boost on it. If it's going to have 10 psi in there, then yeah, a dual 465 hat. And I would just do return style system, and then you can add in that surge tank really easily. So, Jose Delgado says, don't you think a current size and somewhat looking all-wheel drive Mustang should come out before the Mustang E? I think so. I mean, the Mustang has kind of left the North American market as its main target. They've gravitated from that. They always have been trying to do it. If you guys, remember going back, and thank you for the donation, Jose. The Fox Body Mustang, the 6-piece headlight kit, that was a Euro package. And I always thought when they went to the new chassis, 15 to 7 S550, we put a 4-cylinder turbo in there, put IRS in there. All these things lean more towards a better car, more of a European spec car. And Europeans do enjoy all-wheel drive. They use it more, kind of like how they use it more in more of a wet climate. Down here, we really don't use a whole lot of all-wheel drive because, yeah, the roads get wet, but, I mean, it's a quick rain shower and it's gone. People spin out of control and slows down traffic, but it's not always wet. It's not like we live in Seattle or the Northeast or something like that, where it's just always damp and all-wheel drive is really needed. And in that case, are you going to buy an all-wheel drive performance Mustang for that kind of weather? Where in Europe, it's always like that, and they have the roads to enjoy it. And they're used to that. They have a market for the Fiesta RS. They had the Focus RS over there before for years we couldn't get it. And it was a badass Focus. They had all-wheel drive hatchbacks, hot hatches, We used to watch them on Top Gear all the time. Go, man, why don't we have stuff like that? It seems like a cool car. So I would like to see them go that route. There's been hints that potentially some of the components, even on the GT350, like the hubs were splined, and maybe they could do it. There's been those patents out there that have seen some photos of the oil pan that has the axles going through it. So it seems like they're moving that way. The Mach E in particular, seems to really be touching on that, because here we are. It's in front of you. They're advertising it. They're putting millions of dollars into this message. And if they're at the point where they got a 1,400 horsepower one and it's flying all over a skid pad, having a good time, they're showing it to you next to other $1 million, $1 billion endeavors in their marketing, so that there's a likeness to it. So they're showing you Joey Logano, and they're showing you an electric Mustang. So they want all those NASCAR fans to cue in on Joey and then say, hey, I'm okay with electric. Look how cool it is. They're teasing it in there. They're kind of subliminally getting you to be okay with it because it's cool. So I think in the future, potentially, we're going to have a lot of all-wheel drive. We're going to have hybrid, and I think that's where it's going to come from. I think it's going to be maybe V8, maybe it's 6-cylinder for more room constraints and so forth. Maybe because if the hybrid has 400 horsepower and you give them a V8, it's just clunky and heavy. They got to save weight somewhere maybe. A 2.7 twin turbo with an extra 300 horsepower hybrid driving the front wheels, the engine driving the rear wheels, performance-wise, that seems like a good weekend, fun, kind of kick-ass kind of car, where it still has put your gas in and go feel, and has the advantages of the electric. We're already seeing that in the F-150 Power Boost that they're announcing, where you got a 3.5 EcoBoost and the electric hybrid powertrain, and literally the thing's a generator. It's got a 30 amp hookup with 8,500 watts. I mean, I want that truck. I live in Florida. If there's a hurricane, I may not have to buy a generator. I can just run the truck in the driveway, fill up the 30-gallon fuel tank, and hook it up to my panel in the house and let it run the air conditioning if it'll kick on. Or maybe I don't have to buy as big of a generator. I can just run it off my truck. So go camping, whatever, you know. So that we've seen that in motorsports all the way across the board. You know, Volkswagen has their program with that car that ran at Pikes Peak that shattered records, all electric. At Goodwood, there's a lot of really cool videos of them running that hill, and the fastest is the electric car. There's one that was autonomous that was electric. That was pretty crazy. So they're definitely pushing the envelope on performance, and I think it's only going to get, you know, for along those lines. And having an all-wheel drive Mustang, I think it's going to end up being some sort of a hybrid. I don't think it's going to be gas, all-wheel drive. So that's where I'm at on that. A couple more shout-outs. Foxcast Media hopped in there, man. If you guys don't check out his channel, definitely do. If you're into Coyote swaps and Fox bodies, they cover a lot of stuff. They actually get a lot of products from us as well, so you can see how it's used in a lot of swaps and so forth. Jeremy Dover is a great guy. You can always reach out to him too through Facebook and so forth. He always helps people out. And Caleb is there. Hopefully, Caleb, we'll see you in October. Holly, Bowling Green, maybe. We'll see. Let's see here. Root Beer, who asked earlier about the surge tank, says he's staying NA. That's good news then. Save some money. Absolutely. You're going to need it because if you're going to road course it, you need money for tires and seat time and seat belts so you don't fall out of the damn seat. Make sure you get good shoes, hydrate, even get a cool suit or something like that. That way you can enjoy the maximum amount of time on the track because you're paying for it. That's the only way you're going to learn. So the only way to get faster is track time, seat time, track time, seat time, track time. Brakes, brake cooling mods, harnesses, be comfortable. You will be a better driver the more time you spend on the track. Just don't do dumb shit. Whew. All right, so 10 SCHS says, hey, this is Carter Herring. I'm working with Christian Papa and Frank Pez on my 67 F100 with the only running Gen 3 F-150 engine and 1080, waiting on drive shaft to see how it reacts under load. So what Carter's pointing out there is, Carter, we helped mate a Ford Racing control pack to his Gen 3 F-150 1080, and it's running. It's doing well, but he needs a drive shaft in it so he can actually go and drive it and see how everything is and data log everything. So he's just chiming in and letting everybody know that so far so good. I think I saw the video on it, Carter, so sounds like it's running really well. Rami's in the house. Rami, I hear you calling Christian all day long, brother. You guys have a good time on the phone there. Let's see here. Coyote Car Guy says, what's up, Frank? What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us, man. I think you have your own YouTube channel there. I've watched a few of your videos. Here's another interesting question from the chat, from Pussy Pounder. How can you and Alex be friends? You like camping Godzilla swaps, LOL. You know, sometimes you need a yin to your yang, you know, and we do find common ground. I agree with a lot of the stuff he says. I'm maybe not as passionate about it or as polarizing about it. I'm a little bit more of an open book. You know, I'm open to some things, but, you know, hey, if you can't disagree, then how the hell are you going to get along? Let's see here. Joe Lubner says, instant torque of electric motor is awesome. I agree. I've had a chance to ride in one of the Teslas that are like the P100D and ludicrous mode and all that stuff, but I heard it's just insane. Watching the videos, it looks insanity. So, another big piece of news is we did get a Godzilla engine in. And today, you can see here Mike unloading it from the truck. We got it in from Ford Racing, got it unpacked, and started studying this thing. And the Godzilla engine has been something of debate so far. There's a lot of manufacturers hopping onto it cautiously, I would say. It looks like there's going to be, you know, Team Z's doing some crazy stuff, getting some inside knowledge through Ford to really put one together and show you what it looks like in a Fox body, which is a big market. As you can see here, the Godzilla engine is as advertised. It's not as wide. It will fit in stuff, more cars because of that. Maybe you don't have to cut the towers out of a vintage Mustang because of that reason. But one of the things that we've mentioned before is how tall this thing is. And today we were able to measure the balancer from the crank bolt to the top of the engine. Now, in that same bay, we have a Roush supercharged Coyote that's getting ready to ship out. and we measure the Godzilla next to the Roush supercharged Coyote. The Godzilla is 1 inch taller than a supercharged Ford Racing 2.3 supercharged Coyote engine. That's an inch taller than the supercharger with the stock intake manifold. So hood clearance, beware. I don't think any stock hoods are going to clear this thing. I relayed this information to a Bronco builder, and he's going, dude, I already got to put a 3-inch body lift on my Broncos to get the tunnel and get the hood to clear a supercharged V8. And you're telling me I need another inch? If I do a 4-inch lift, maybe even a 5, it's not going to work right. So that's one issue we see. Doesn't detract from the fact that it still could be a great engine for racing, and you're just going to shove it in there and do really cool stuff with it. I offended the hell out of somebody online recently. I just want to make it totally clear that we're not bashing the Godzilla. It still might be a great engine. It still could do all these awesome things. All we're pointing out are the hurdles that stuff is going to have to be figured out for. So here's one of them. It is 4 inches taller, NA to NA, than a Coyote. 4. And it's taller than a Roush blower, which means it's probably about the same height as a Coyote with a Whipple or an Edelbrock on it. Gen 5 Whipple, that is. So let's go back to the engine. Here we go. Here's the back of it. It does have a modular Ford bolt pattern for the transmission. So 10R80, 6R80, 10R140, 10R60 maybe, I don't know. As you can see here, a couple interesting things to note. In the valley in the back, that is the oil pressure sender. Very reminiscent of what GM does with theirs. You do have a crank sensor in the back, similar to a Coyote. It's using what appears to be a Coyote flex plate as well. So 8-bolt crank. You know, nothing alien here. You know, those exhaust manifolds may or may not work. You know, headers are kind of a tricky thing for swaps. Here, Jake is scratching his face, looking at certain things here. We're looking at the engine from the driver's side forward. That is the lower radiator hose connection. Above it, you'll see the upper radiator hose connection. That's where the thermostat is. There is a timing cover. The water pump bolts into the timing cover, so it's kind of like an older Windsor 302. Let's see here. There is a factory power steering pump on these engines, and we're going to order that stuff and see how we can kit it together. We're going to look at a couple different accessory drive things that we're going to be doing here. I don't think it's going to be as extensive as what we've been doing for the Coyotes, because there is a factory power steering option, so I don't think there's going to be as many brackets and so forth that need to be bought, which is good because that might bring the cost down on adding power steering and AC and alternator, all that fun stuff. Side profile of the engine, look at that throttle body. It looks like it's taking off from a NASA platform heading to space. That is going to be a problem for most guys doing a swap, because on top of having hood clearance issues to that intake manifold, now the throttle body is almost taller than the whole part of the intake manifold, and that's going to be going out the front of the cowl hood, which is typically the lower part of a cowl hood going back. So now these cowl hoods are going to have to get higher quicker to clear this engine, unless we can push them down into the K-member. Now, that is another problem. It requires an additional inch over what a Coyote requires downward to clear the oil pan. Okay, let's skinny up the oil pan. I'd love to, but apparently there's a jack shaft in there hooked up to an oil pump, so we may not be able to skinny up the oil pan. We may have to scallop the oil pan and hopefully shove your steering rack up into the oil pan, or go through the damn thing somehow. I don't know. I know Team Z is working on stuff in their videos, and they're going to come out with components, seemingly going to be the first ones to market with it. We'll see what they do. There's going to have to be solutions here to get this thing to work. If there aren't easy solutions, it's really going to stem the growth of the following for this engine, because we are not all building, you know, tubular front end race cars. Like, we build street cars. Very few of us race all the time, and the ones that do, are they going to be lining up for a 7.3 Godzilla now? Maybe 5-10 years down the road, when the thing proves to be such an animal that it has outgrown all old technology and 302s and Windsors and all this stuff, you know. But right now, as it sits as a stock engine, compared to a stock engine with a Coyote, this thing's going to be a handful to get into a vehicle. Now, there's very, very talented chassis builders out there. I'm sure there'll be solutions. If there's a gearbox, for example, on an F100, probably not as big of a problem as it is with like an Aluma frame from Detroit Speed or a Mustang 2 front end. So there's going to be asses for the seats of this build, but it's got to be the right chassis, I think. I don't think this thing's a complete home run as the Coyote is developed to become, but it's a struggle. And you know, to be honest with you guys, it's a struggle for us. This time right now is probably the most challenging time we've had as a company, because there's so many new things going on, and we have to try to take what we've done with the Coyote and transfer it to another engine. It's as if we said, okay, tomorrow we're going to start doing Hemi swaps. We have to apply what we've done and how we've done it to this new engine. Now, Ford has graciously given us the Godzilla as a crate motor, and it does, on paper, have its merits. But what are the challenges going to be? We didn't know what the challenges were going to be going into the Coyote swaps. Eventually, you know, try this, try that, try this, try that. And people had a combination to it. We had control packs, boom, we're ready to go. But we didn't fall in love with the Coyote. Really, I didn't see people fall in love with the Coyote until they started boosting the hell out of them and realizing they can make, with 10 pounds of boost, 650 horsepower on pump gas. And then when people figured out the 6R80, they're like, wow, look what I can do with the 6R80. This guy's running nines on pump gas and driving home. I remember that. It was Joe DeCaria. I mean, the car was really, really good. Where I think the Godzilla is going to have problems there is that all that performance development and track, you know, based performance and testing is really only going to be able to come from swapped vehicles. So we got to be able to swap them into the vehicles to be able to go out there and test them. We don't have a factory version of the car out there showing us what potentially it can do, and then you can do the math. Okay, it went 125 miles an hour. My car weighs 700 pounds lighter than this car. That thing's going to be quick in my car. Let's put it in. Let's do it. Yeah, it's got 2 horsepower per liter, whatever the hell's going on. Yeah, I understand, but we don't. The real world knowledge that existed to prove the Coyote to us, it's not going to be as easy to get for that Godzilla because guys aren't really lining up to go take their F-250s to the track gas. I mean, up to now it hasn't been. Maybe it changes. Who knows? I don't know anything. Now, I'm a pretty smart guy, but looking at what's to come and how things have worked leading up to now, that F-250 Super Duty market isn't the biggest high-performance hotbed outside of diesel. So are those guys, are people really going to be running out there grabbing those trucks? And then are you going to be at the track going, oh man, that thing went 13.0. Imagine putting that in my Fox body. The math is the math. So I leave it to the aftermarket, and we're going to be part of it to see what the options are going to be and what we can come up with to help people put these engines in and see if there's a market for them. Now, great engine. So far, so good. I got nothing against it. Nothing against it at all. I hope it flourishes and we have another market of swap engines. And I think there's going to be a following for it, but I don't think it's going to be the perfect fit for everyone. I think it might fall short on a few things. So anyway, back to the Godzilla engine here. Oh, those were all my pictures I loaded, so enjoy them. So yeah, Godzilla engine is here. We're going to be looking at a lot of different things, coming up with a few solutions right off the bat that I think will help folks at least try to get them into cars and test fit them and so forth. And if you're looking to do one, let us know. We would love to team up with somebody who's going to be doing one, and maybe can come up with a few products and have you test it, stuff like that, or at least get the car here. We can test it for you, that kind of stuff. Let's take a look at the chat, see what the hell's going on over there. Let's see here. Bob Dooley, speaking of Mach 1, my project is a 70 Mach 1 with a Gen 2 6-speed. 6-speed manual or automatic? Let us know about that, Bob. Any guidance making it a 50 state legal? Will you guys be doing a Gen 2 harness? We don't have any plans on doing a Gen 2 body harness by itself. Hold on, coffee break. a Gen 2 body harness by itself. We were planning on doing one a while ago, and the Ford has some special legal limitations on some of the components needed for that harness, and it keeps us from being able to manufacture it. So we rely on the Ford Racing control packs to get that done for you. Now, as far as making a 50 state legal, as far as emissions goes, I'm not sure what you're going to be able to do. What might be something that you want to do is, in using a control pack, maybe switching the PCM to a stock PCM or reprogramming it somehow so that it shows a VIN number. That way, emissions testing can then contact the computer and see all the information I believe it's going to see. As far as emissions goes, there's nothing alien there. Simply put, you're just going to have to duplicate what they do in a 15 to 17 Mustangs to make it emissions legal. Catalytic converters, evap system, canister purge, all that stuff needs to be installed. There's aftermarket components to help you with that, but you have a good working model to go off of. And if it's as simple as just taking some of those components and packaging them in on your 70 Mach 1, even though it's going to take up extra space and may not be the easiest thing to do, that's what you're going to have to do to make it emissions legal. Now, I'll also tell you, I'm not the most knowledgeable person and well-versed person on emissions testing. I live in the state of Florida. The shop's in the state of Florida. We don't have it here. So it's not really an immediate problem for a lot of our customers. I was under the impression that something like a 70 Mach 1 that didn't have emissions from the factory, what kind of testing are they doing on your vehicle? Because I would think you're exempt at that point. So, Bob, a lot of questions there. So it's a 6-speed manual. Okay. If you can post up in there, let us know what kind of emissions are they really want. Are they really zeroing in on the engine you have, or is it the chassis you have? Because if you got 70 Mach 1, that thing never passed emissions ever. I mean, I think the PCV system was designed to drop the oil on the ground. Let's see here. Doug Fedelke. Anyone know if factory computers are worth anything? Pulled an auto harness off an engine, had the factory Gen 2 computer going control pack. They're not that valuable, Doug. Unfortunately, you probably max could probably get $100 for it as a core. You're probably going to get less because if you sell it to somebody who is turning them in as cores, they're probably only going to get $100. So they're probably going to offer you $50 or $30 for it. So maybe, but you can't take that PCM and put it in another Mustang because the VIN numbers can't be changed, and then that PCM isn't going to match the rest of the car, and it could be a communication error. Wild Horse Garage says, that throttle body, holy LOL. I think he's talking about the picture of the Godzilla. Let's see here. Modular Fox body. I think that's Ryan Merrill. Godzilla is all going to depend on head flow. I will tell you, looking at the cylinder heads, they are massive. And you can almost see the chambers in the outer casting. It's really interesting. You don't see that on Windsors, even aftermarket heads. So it's impressive. It's a big honking motor. It's heavy. I think it's going to be tough to get into cars. I mean, trucks, better chance maybe because the hoods, but if it's down too far down, you got to move the engine up, then you got the tunnel right there. That might be a problem. Project T-Top Coyote with the PBH front bracket setup. I had the power steering and alternator relocation, but I'm not running AC. What length belt do I need? Do I still use the extra tensioner? You do use the extra tensioner on the alternator. Depending on the alternator pulley that you have, you're going to use either a 37.4 if you have a stock alternator pulley from Gen 1 that is clutchless. If you have a Gen 2 or Gen 3 or the PBH alternator clutchless pulley, then you're going to use the 38-inch belt. Those belts are listed on our website if you need to buy one. If you go to our alternator relocation kits, they are in there as a separate listing, and you can also go to the alternator listing, and it's listed as replacement belts, and you can pick the 37.4 or the 38-inch belt. Yeah, a couple people commenting on Bob Dooley and his 70 Mach 1. I would think it's exempt, but we'll see. Might be a year break that he's just under. Yeah, yeah, $50 is better than nothing. I know with all the computers that we send out in our control packs, we need cores because we're buying those computers from Ford, and we buy them in batches and get them pretty cheap. So junkyards usually aren't looking to buy them. There's got to be somebody online that buys them for remanufacturing purposes or something. So search that as well. Root beer, do you know what the valve angle is on the Godzilla? I don't know offhand. I did look at some of the Ford workshop manual information. It has some of that stuff in there, but I don't remember right off the top of my head what it was. I couldn't even tell you how much power it makes. You see me drinking coffee. I'm drinking that coffee after I had a nitro brew this morning. I had an energy ice drink midday, and I was feeling dragged down. I was running around here like crazy today because we're shooting a 55 F100 that we're doing a bunch of upgrades to. It's Coyote swapped. We're going to be dyno tuning it as well. And then when it gets done and finished, the interior and all that stuff, he's going to do some paint stuff. Then it's coming back here. We're going to do a full video on it. So look for that. I'm working on that right now. The truck was done. It worked well, but there's a lot of redundancy in the cooling system with some tanks and stuff like that. We updated his power steering reservoir, put our speed sears pulleys on it. It's already got our speed drive on it. We're doing a couple upgrades for him, and then we're going to put on the dyno and see how much power it makes. It's a Gen 1 truck motor with a stock intake, a 3.5-inch intake tube, stock Mustang exhaust manifold. So 360, 380. We'll see what it does. It's a 6R80 truck as well. Let's see here. Poor boy 313 says the Mach E is the beginning of speed racer era. Yeah, I can roll with that. I can roll with that for sure. So the other topic that I put in the title was Gen 3 10R80 Coyote swaps. The reason I wanted to talk about that a little bit was to make sure that everyone kind of has an expectation for what you're going to get out of a Gen 3 10R80 swap, and focusing mainly on the 10R80 because we have 2 employees here that have 10R80s in their F-150s, and they have quirks to them. Stuff that it wasn't an issue in a 6R80. So 10R80s, the pros, 10 speeds, maintains RPMs exactly where you want them. They're quicker, for sure. They're also more robust. In their robust nature, the only weak point that really has been found has been clutches. Boom, we got Ray Best's GPZ frictions. You put them in there, they can sustain a good amount of power. What I'm hearing is feedback from our tuners and from people calling us for rebuilds is once you get up past 800 to 1,000 horsepower, you don't have as many runs on those clutches as you would really want. They seem to be, even though they're upgraded and you're putting more of them in there and stuff, they're not holding as much as the 6R80s seemingly did. Now the 6R80, when it grew to its fame, they were failing, but it was a lot of tuning related stuff that was just kind of a growth period and trying to figure stuff out. Once they got it figured out, we got frictions from Excetti. Ray Bestis came later or whatnot, but start putting the Excetti frictions in there, right? Boom, we start breaking intermediate shafts. Okay, billet intermediate shaft, put it in there. Okay, cool, sweet. Boom, broke a forward planetary. By the way, I already broke my torque converter, got to get an upgraded one from Circle D. Got my forward planetary figured out, let's go have fun. And that transmission now is good for a solid 1,000 horsepower. If you want to reinforce it a little bit more, you got your main shaft and you got your one-way, I forget, the one-way clutch in the back of the sprag or whatnot. The 10R80 isn't breaking. We're not getting past the clutch issue. And from what I'm hearing, there's a couple of things that are inherently built into it that are problematic. Tuning-wise, shifts are happening really, really, really fast. And I don't know if there's any more room to develop that and take care of the issue or maybe skip gears potentially, but if it doesn't grab that gear, things happen a little bit slower than it's intended. It just bangs the limiter. really bad. And that's something that's happening because things are happening really, really fast in the transmission. There's 4 speed sensors on that transmission. 4 of them. That's a lot of data coming into the computer, being basically calculated and then being sent back to the transmission and happening at once. The 10R80s also have some weird neutraling out issues. You know, if you're driving around a corner and you're in 6th gear and you lift off the gas and it decides to drop to 3rd gear, but then you give it, 4th gear, but then you give it gas and it wants to go to 3rd gear, a lot of times it'll neutral out and then find a gear and then take off. So that's not something that's tuning fix, that's factory Ford issue. They're also a little clunky in between reverse to drive. So if you're backing out of a parking lot, you're in reverse, and then you put it in drive, you could end up with a neutral situation where you're just kind of sitting there waiting, and then it engages and it goes. The reason I wanted to bring those things up is that we've been getting inquiries about that on how to fix it, and unfortunately, a lot like the 5R55 that was in the 05 to 09 cars, there's no fix for that kind of stuff. Even though it's more electronic in nature, there's nothing that Lund Racing is going to be able to put in there in the foreseeable future and in the development they're doing that's going to be able to fix that for you. It's something that there's a lot of shit going on and it gets stuck. So I wanted to point that out, at least in this video. I know there's a lot of stuff to pack into this hour here, but to hopefully let you know what to expect, because those are things that we didn't run into on the 6R80s, and the 6R80 has a good reputation because of that. The 10R80, if it's Gen 3 and you want it automatic, that's your only option. We're not putting a 6R80 behind it with a stock computer. With a standalone, that's a whole nother ball game. With a stock computer control pack, I wanted to at least bring these things to light so that you know somewhat what to expect. And if it happens to you, you go, ah, that's what he was talking about. That way you know it's not something you did wrong. You're not going to yell at your tuner about it. You're not calling Ford Racing saying the PCM's messed up. It's not a wiring issue. Potentially all those issues that we just outlined there. Nature of the beast so far. Things could always change tomorrow. But let's see here. Renner 595959. It's Renee Ramos. Just wanted to give you some channel support. Just got my Engage Lund tune and should be firing up really soon. Thanks for all your help. You're welcome, Renee. If you're not following Renee on Instagram, he's building a really nice Fox body Gen 3. I want to say it's stick. Car's really nice. Red engine, accents, and so forth. It's been really fun to work with on his project. Helped him out a lot too. Turbo Gumby. Gumby Sounders? Any word on a standalone 10R trans controller yet? No, man. No, I haven't heard anything yet. The 6R80 controllers and seemingly still have some issues with standalone. I don't think that's completely figured out yet by the aftermarket. I would only expect that 10R80 is going to be potentially even harder based on the fact that there is even more data to figure out to get that transmission to work. So as far as a standalone 10R80 controller, I haven't seen one yet. I don't know how good it's going to be, but hey, maybe they'll figure out and it'll work great and we can put them behind these Godzilla engines and let them rip. But control pack wise, Gumby, you have one that you're installing that'll also give us some information as far as running that F-150 Gen 3 with a 10R80 behind it with a Ford Racing control pack. So get back to us on that once you get that bad boy fired up. Alejandro Flores has chimed in. Thank you for the channel support. He says the 6R80 is King Daddy. Get over it. Now, please keep in mind, Alex is only expressing his opinion, but his opinion is rooted in a lot of reps and tuning both. So, he's also one of the sources of information on some of those things that I just mentioned. I know we've gotten a lot of calls on the 10R80s and so forth, so we also have heard some of these things. It's Enzo Lorenzo. Is the F-150 6R80 the same as a Mustang? If so, can I use it on an F-150 engine? with Mustang cams. Yeah, absolutely. F-150 6R80. Now, Generation 1, Generation 2, there's some differences in valve body and calibration, stuff like that. So try to stay within your generation. If you have a F-150 transmission from a different generation, you might want to put the right valve body in it. You don't have to change the rest of the transmission. F-150 6R80 differences to the 6R80. There's a mounting boss that's missing for the Mustang shifter cable. We have some provisions and parts to help you overcome that if you need to put a Mustang cable on it. Internally, the transmissions are a little bit different. There's less clutches in an F-150 6R80 than there are in a Mustang. But if you're going to rebuild it, the same clutch kit goes into it. It doesn't matter what's in there from the F-150. If you buy, for example, our FNS kit, frictions and steels, you'll be able to put it into the F-150 transmission without issue. The rest of the hard parts are the same. It'll bolt up. Careful with the F-150. Sometimes they're four-wheel drive F-150, and it's not an extension housing to make it a two-wheel drive. It's the entire case. I've had a few people buy, hey, I got an F-150 6R80. Was that a four-wheel drive? Can you sell me the tail shaft housing? There is not one. You got to get a case for a 4x2. Send that one back, go get a 4x2 one, and your problem solved. Unless you want to spend $1,000 changing it over, labor and parts, to two-wheel drive, and still have the same used internals. Let's see here. Root beer chiming in. Last question, I promise. Would you do return style fuel system for NA? Any benefits? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's really any benefit to it. Naturally aspirated, like you mentioned in a stock Mach 1 Mustang. I don't really think you're going to find anything there. I mean, it's definitely not going to make any more power. I don't think it's going to be more efficient. No, I don't think there's much benefit there for you. Not that I can remember. I mean, someone else can chime in and say what, but I don't think you're going to have much benefit there at all. Let's see here. Turbo Gumby says he's been working on that Merc this week. Yes. Send me some updates, brother. I want to see what that thing's doing. Ford Racing 5.0. Can a built MMR engine work with PBH wiring harness? MMR deletes the phasers on the Coyote for more power. Yeah, you can do that. You just got to tell your calibrator, and they'll turn it off in the tuning, and they can keep tuning and go forward from there. Make sure your tuner knows everything about that engine, who built it, compression, if it's ported, all that fun stuff. So they are properly prepared for what you're getting them to calibrate for you, and they can give you honest, real-world answers on how it's going to turn out. Let's see here. 2000 MCR. What's the next transmission? A 12R80. No, in the Godzilla, it's a 10R140. So a 10R80 means it's a 10-speed reverse. It can handle about 800 Newton meters. 10R140 can handle 1,400 Newton meters. So big torquey transmission. It's a little bit different than the 10R80. But it's seemingly like the Godzilla's engine harness has the same connector as a Gen 3 Mustang. So there might be something there where they can put a 10R80 behind it. I don't think Ford Racing is going to release a 10-speed 10R140 control pack for the Godzilla. If they do it, it's going to have to be a 10R80, which up to now they really haven't done a lot as far as mixing and matching parts from the Ford factory parts bin. So I would expect they're going to release the first control pack. It's going to be a manual transmission. If you want to put an automatic behind it, it's got to be a standalone. Since it has the same bolt pattern as a 6R80, maybe you put a 6R80 behind it. You can take your chances with a standalone. 4R70W will work as well. 10R80, there's no standalone controller for it yet, unless you figure out the electronics yourself, which is possible. Bob Dooley says the car is exempt in California, has a special section on engine change which requires an inspection before it can be registered. Can I substitute the stock ECU into a Gen 2 control pack? I don't see why you couldn't. Now, calibration is going to have to be special. You're probably going to have to send that stock PCM out to somebody to get a bench flash to shut the PAT system off. That way you can load tunes to it, and then from there, they can start calibrating. The Ford Racing calibration that's using the control pack could be overlaid into a file with a VIN number on it with a stock computer. That way, everything seems to be factory as much as possible. Let's see here. Blue 99. Hey, Frank, are Gen 2 valve springs basically Boss 302 valve springs? I believe they are. I don't know metallurgy wise if they are dead nuts, but I know a lot of the stuff that was in the 12, 13, 14 Boss 302 ended up standard issue in the Gen 2 engines in the Mustangs. So there is an upgraded valve spring in there. Is it exactly like a Boss 302 valve spring? I couldn't say for sure, but I know it's better than what the Gen 1s had from the factory. Let's see here. You got a lot of good comments in here. Let's see here. Turbo Gumby, again, been thinking really hard on swapping my 55 from Gen MT82 to Gen 310R. Well, if it's going to be Gen 310R, let's just use a control pack. I mean, that's going to be your guaranteed it's going to work kind of thing. I don't know what Gen motor you have now, but if you're talking about putting a Gen 3 engine with a 10R80 behind it, control pack that sucker, man. Why try to make it any harder than that? And you can do a standalone. I mean, the problem, the good thing about a standalone is typically you have control of a lot of parameters and you can make anything just about work. With the transmissions, I don't think it's that easy, especially with the nature of the transmission, the beast that it is, with torque management, all these other things wrapped up in it and all these tables. It's hard to simplify that stuff and do a couple of switches. So, from what I've seen and heard, it works great like this, and then it doesn't do that. And then this guy says it does that, but it doesn't do this. And this guy says I tried to do this, and then I heard it. And I rebuilt it, and then I heard it again. And then I didn't get out of the parking lot with it. I always had problems. I couldn't get it down the track. It shuts off after I do a burnout. I mean, there's a lot of things going into swaps, so you can't always blame the transmission controller. I mean, that'd be silly to do that, but it's, the guys who have it have issues that are related to that, and unfortunately it's hard to get them all right. So they're not as lights out as control packs. Percentage wise, it makes sense to do a control pack. You could rely on tuning that's already available. And your F100 would be really cool. Centrifugal 10R80. I mean, it'd be fast. I mean, it'd be really quick. Alex Flores says put a 6R80 in it. And keep the Pro Charger. Let's see here. F-150, S550. What's up, Frank? What are your thoughts on electric power steering pumps? I have talked about this before. The electric power steering pumps, I think, can be used. I haven't heard a lot of complaints from the guys using them. In the Coyote Swap Fox Bodies group on Facebook, guys put them in all the time. I don't hear a lot of negative stuff about them. I've never used one myself. I don't think I've really run into a situation where I'd have to. The only thing I would be afraid of is that electric power steering pump. To my knowledge, usually in their factory applications, they have some sort of a controller to make sure that pressures are correct and voltage is correct based on demand. When we put them in a Coyote swap, we don't really have that. I may be wrong. I don't know for sure, but making sure that you have this pump available to do what you're asking it to do upon your input, upon your demand, is important. So, yeah, Gumby probably has a lot of information that he can share with you on. He says he uses Volvos a lot. I'm on 7 to 8 this year. So it sounds like he's using them plenty. So the question then is, what's your usage? Are you going to rely on that electric pump for something that you're going to be autocrossing, road racing, that kind of stuff? Or is it going to be a cruiser going down the street, car show, parking lot duty? I think 90% of us are the latter, and it's going to be fine if you want to go that route. We have hydraulic power steering that's belt driven. That combination has been used by every OEM out there, even into today. That Godzilla engine has a power steering pump on it from the factory, and electric assist. So, there's still something to that hydraulic belt-driven power steering pump that works. And then they're also mixing it with an assisted electric too. Our newer Mustangs have all electric, but that's a different animal than a Volvo power steering pump. So I know there's a lot more electric steering columns that are coming out, pure electric assist, not electric pump. That's also something to look at too. But price wise, pick your poison. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. So we have the world famous back to front, or front to back, or back to front. You decide. In fact, you know what? In the next 2 days, do it both ways and see which one you feel better about. Alex says back to front equals hashtag shitty nuts. Well, anyway, so let's do a little synopsis on tonight's show. Mach E 1400. I don't see a whole lot of people saying I don't like that. I think it looks awesome. Whatever they're doing here, whatever this leads to, is kind of exciting to me. I like the way that car looks. I mean, that's my styling cues that I'm kind of into. Call me a millennial, I guess, for that. But I've always liked wide body cars, big wings, big splitters in the road racing, and that thing checks a lot of boxes for me, and I'm okay with it. And whatever they're doing in the video there, that's just crazy. 1400 horsepower, who doesn't want that? We talked a little bit about the Godzilla. We do have one here. We're going to be developing parts. We'll release tech information as it comes around, and I think there's going to be a lot of chassis builders out there that are going to have their work cut out for them. So we'll see what happens on that front. And then the 10R80s. Know what you're getting yourself into, how they react, and what they do. That way, when it happens to you, it's not a surprise. You're not disappointed in it, and you know what you're getting yourself into. On that note, you guys are still going on about the EVs. Gumby says, yep, like Frank said, belt-driven pump is still the better choice, or better choices. There's a lot more choices, I think, in that realm. The electric stuff, it'd be interesting if someone came out with a new electric power steering pump, something designed for the aftermarket. I haven't seen that yet. So anyway, I'm running over my time. I got to get rolling here. A lot of fun here tonight, guys. Thank you for chiming in. Always thank you for the support. If there's anything that we missed in the chat room, tech questions, anything in general, you can email me, info@pbhperformance.com. We are looking for PBH-equipped builds, videos of those builds. So if you're on social media, if you want to send us the videos via email, you can always hashtag PBH-equipped. I'm always checking that for different builds. You can send it to me directly or tag us in the photo, and we're going to start putting that stuff up and sharing it on our own social media. We did it recently with Gumby, with King Mercules, which you didn't see that truck. It's crazy. Thank you for joining us. If you have any of that information or stuff to share, send it my way. Make sure you visit our website, pbhperformance.com. Be patient with all your aftermarket suppliers. There are a lot of things on back order, and we are not impervious to that as well, but we're working through it just like everybody else is. If you have an order with us that needs to get checked, email us, info@pbhperformance.com, and we'll check on the order and so forth and get you taken care of. Guys, be safe out there. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in this world. Don't get too caught up in it. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families. We'll see you again here next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. And hopefully we can talk about some more cool stuff. We're going to have some more information on the Godzilla. We're going to have a 55 F100 we just did some updates to. I got Denny Sullivan's New Edge Coyote Swap, Gen 2 Coyote Swap Mustang here. It's getting an Edelbrock 2650. Been talking about that for 4 months now. It's here. It's happening. As soon as that 55 F100 is out of the shop, that one's coming in, and we're going to get that thing knocked out. So a lot of cool stuff coming up. A lot of video work. That's why I'm so beat up today. I got to get out of here so I can get some sleep and come back here tomorrow morning at 7:30 and keep doing what I did today. Thank you again for joining us tonight, guys. I'm going to sign off for the last time. We'll see you here next week. Thanks for checking in. Have a good one, guys.